Hello, welcome back to ministry, and today God gave me another song review, y'all. He did this while he gave me to pour out on these words, because me and God have a relationship like that. I talk to him, and when I ask him, he just pour out on me on certain occasions. All the answers just flood me, and I'm like, whoa. Some people may wonder why I be having so many videos on this channel. Because when God starts talking, he just pours so many words on me all at one time that I have to sporadically spread them out. And I'll get a month full of words in 2 weeks. And in a lot of cases, when I say 2 weeks, I mean he gave it to me in 2 days out of 2 weeks. Because he dropped 15 words on me at one time. He's been known to give me 6 words at once, 15 words at once. One day I calculated, I think I got 17 words in the same day. No lie. Because when he starts to speak, prayers of a righteous man availeth much, and God like to pour. So, yeah. So, what else? The word that I have for you today is the song review. So, the song is Ricky Martin and Christina Aguilera's Nobody Wants to Be Lonely. This is a song that I fell in love with back in the early 2000s because I can't believe this song is like 20 years old. It's amazing to me that I was a teenager when this song came out. And I'm about to be the ripe age of 37. So, this song, I remember MTV rotated this sucker all the way through. Every day. MTV, VH1, all the radio stations. Your Hot 104.7. I mean, come on now. It was everywhere. And that 104 means something to somebody, because some of you are going to get a written form of communication from your spouse, because I've been getting 104 too. Just thought I'd throw that in there. Next, let's just get to the lyrics, because that's what we're here for. And I think it's a bunch of revelation in this song, because the way God dropped it on me, I just heard, I heard Christina Aguilera, just like I'm hearing her right now singing her verse of the song. And I was like, let me go look this up. And it's been bugging me since I heard it. So let's get to work. It starts off with the ad-libs. Why, oh why, oh why. Some of you and your spouses have been asking God why. Why has it been taking so long? Why is this happening? Why this? Why? Oh, why? Why, God? That's where you've been at. Second. Let's see. There you are in a darkened room. For some of you, you've been in a level of isolation where it felt like you were in the dark about a lot of things. But God is bringing a level of light and illumination to certain people and situations at appropriate times. That's why y'all was sitting up there. Why does it feel like I've been getting hurry up and wait? Because God had you waiting because he needed to bring you more revelation. Even Esther, after she did the 3-day consecration, had to wait 24 hours, even though she initiated one dinner, she had to do a second one because God had to give her more information because she had to what? Wait. And y'all been in isolation wondering why y'all still waiting. And you are all alone looking out the window. Some of y'all have been looking out the window and for you, it's not really a window. The Lord's bringing me this revelation because this is an old show I used to watch called Underground. It was only on for 2 seasons. But the woman used to always look out the window because she would look outside wondering what her life would be if she knew what the outside of that living situation was. For some of you, you always hear me make the reference of looking out of the glass. You're on one side, your blessings are on the other side, and you're looking through the glass window at the manifestation of what it is that God said that you're supposed to have. And it seems like it's that close but that far away because you're looking out the window at it and you can't touch it. Your heart is cold and lost the will to love. Some of you have gone into apathy because of this promise. And I've heard a lot of people that have been waiting for this kingdom marriage talk about this. Lie to you not. Prophet Productions did 2 videos last month where she was talking about the fact that God's about to bring this marriage into your life because very simply, you need it. He needs to show you a level of manifestation of promise in your life right now because your heart is actually growing cold to the idea of ever being in love with anybody else ever again. And because of that, God's like, I got to bring this person to you before your heart grows cold. And that's what Prophet Production was saying. And I didn't get it. I was like, well, my heart ain't there. So, and for some of you, that coldness has brought you a level of apathy that I've seen all of these people. They've been like, I'm over this. I'm done with this. I don't want to be, because it hurts too much to love this person and not have them in your life. Harley Roof did a word where she talked about the engagement or the proposal going to happen and it's going to happen suddenly. And for the fact of the matter that it's going to happen and happen suddenly, that it needs to happen in that way because you don't understand how much you need it. Because a lot of y'all have been subtly, subconsciously pushing down your emotions in apathy, trying to act like you don't care about this thing. But when it happens, it's going to be what you needed. You needed it. You needed it to keep your heart from going cold. Like a broken arrow. And I'm thinking about the old reference to Cupid. Cupid was the one that shot the arrow into the heart of the individual so that they would fall in love. But remember, if the arrow is broken, what happens? Some of you have been heartbroken because of the tug and the pull of this kingdom marriage. Your spouses have felt it too. They have. And your spouses, and it's funny that Hard Roof did a video literally just yesterday talking about the fact that your spouses have been watching you. In this lyric, he says, here I stand in the shadows. They've been watching from the shadows at you. Okay? They've been watching you. They've seen everything. And for some of you, it's not that you've been watching them. It's the fact that the Lord has given you spiritual wisdom in relation to them. And God has combinedly did the same thing for them. They've been getting the spiritual wisdom and listening to the listening ear of God to what they've been able to gain wisdom to. And together, y'all been watching each other. God bringing me to, I already did a review of this song. I know I did. Groove With You from the Isley Brothers. Go look that up. in the song reviews. But when it comes down to it, in Groove With You, it talks about the fact that I've been watching you, you've been watching me. Y'all been watching each other. And it's funny, I'm reminded of an old episode of Steve Harvey's talk show where it was a Valentine's Day episode, and the guy, he'd been looking for this woman for years, only to come to find out she'd been looking for him too, but she hadn't admitted that she was looking for him. He managed to find her on Facebook, but he had been looking for her for years. And when they met that day, she was freaking out because of the fact that I've been wanting to find you for years. Your spouse has been looking for you. But catch this. Come to me. He says, come to me. You say, come to me. Your spouse has been wanting you to come forward and say something that, whether it was that you opened up the line of communication or you've been waiting for them to open the line of communication, and they've been waiting for you to open the line of communication. Y'all been both stuck in a stalemate, literally. Catch that. That's what the word that God just dropped in my spirit, a stalemate. Neither one of you could move. I play chess, so I understand a stalemate. So neither one of you was moving, and nothing happening. Can you see it? God has been trying to open y'all's spiritual eyes. Nobody wants to be lonely. This type of relationship have left us feeling lonely more often than we would want to admit. The amount of tears that were brought out because of this longing, whether it be for them for you and you for them, that has been an unbearable longing for one another. My body longs to hold you. I keep seeing this song. I think is it Alexander O'Neal that talks about if you were here tonight. They want you with them in every capacity. Not just intimately. It's just that they need you by their side. And it hurts them to not be around. It hurts. I was looking at something the other day and literally saw something. I was like, I can't even look at this image right now because if I look at it, it brings a pain in my heart. Some of y'all have been dealing with ingestive pains and y'all been trying to figure out, is that indigestion? What is this pain I got in my chest? It's the love in your heart that hurts for your spouse. Time is precious and it's slipping away. Your spouse has been wasting time. There has been a tearing. I talked about this in the word no air. Time has been wasted in the process of all of this happening. And it's been time slipping away from both of you. And I'm hearing seal. Time keeps on slipping into the future. And it's funny, Lady Jeremiah made that reference yesterday in one of her videos. It's slipping away. Y'all ain't got time. Jesus is coming back. We ain't got time to be sitting up here like, oh, I got all the time in the world. Y'all getting older. Some of y'all in roof situations, the way your spouse is a little bit older than y'all. Time is wasting. Y'all got to get these kingdom children out if y'all want to see them grow up. Let's see. And I've been waiting for you all of my life. You are the answer to your spouse's prayers. Harder the video called that too. That I don't remember the exact wording of the title, where she talked about your spouse was hoping that you were the one or something like that. There's something else here. Where are we at? So, with that being said, nobody wants to be lonely. So why? Why don't you let me love you? Catch this. Now, he said that, why don't you let me love you? But I feel like it's the vice versa. In some of your cases, it's the man. Your spouse is afraid to love again. In some of the cases, due to the type of warfare that they just went through with that counterfeit, they are terrified to love again. They are terrified. I'm reminded of Tamar Braxton's song, When It Hurts, I think it's called. That they want to love you, or you want to love your spouse where it hurts them. But they have to come into the understanding that you're not trying to hurt them. And for some, and I'll even be transparent enough to say this, that I've had conversations with God. I'm like, I've seen all the videos of the people saying your spouse is going to love you and it's going to be the best love ever and it's going to be this, that, and the other. And it's like, there's a part of your heart that's been hurt. And maybe that's what Queen Alita was talking about. Some of us have gone through a pain that happened a long time ago, a childhood hurt or whatever kind of hurt, whether it was for them, whether it was for you, but whatever that hurt was, it took something from you. And the enemy has been using that stumbling block in every relationship for maybe your spouse or it was for you. I'm not trying to boast when I sit up there and say that I've only been in one relationship. I truly have only been in one relationship with one person, period. And I never got romantically involved with anybody else. This will be the first person since that relationship I've ever gotten romantically involved with. Will be my kingdom spouse. If I could divinely reverse scenario, I'd have never gotten involved with that guy. But to be honest with you, had I never gotten involved with that individual, I would have never been able to learn what it was that I actually wanted to be able to pray for this one. So, yeah, they needed to be healed from their hurt. And some of you, it was you that needed to be healed from the hurt so that you could open up. Why? So that you could heal from the hurt. Why? So that you could open up. Why? So you can move forward. Can you hear my voice? For some of you, it's the voice, your voice, praying for this man, praying. And some of them, they could actually hear him. I've heard a lot of people say that they can hear their spouse praying for them, and your spouse can hear you praying for them. Vice versa. Do you hear my song? And for some of you, it is music that's being used. It's a serenade so your heart can find me. The music is leading you back and forth. And suddenly you're flying down the stairs. God has been using a way of spiritual passing notes through the music that y'all been listening to whatever capacity it is that either you've been listening. And it's giving your spouse the nerve, the unction, and the ability to go take the leap. In order to come towards you. Before I start going crazy, your spouses have felt like they were losing their mind, especially the way that God has been speaking to them, that they have not been used to. It's literally felt crazy to them. For us, it's normal clues and understandings and confirmations and all this kind of stuff. No, we're not supposed to lean solely on those things, but when your spouse saw these types of things, if you saw the word that I did on Cinderella, that when the spouse started following the mice and the birds, he was like, am I going crazy? He literally was standing in the room by himself talking about art. I'm following birds and mice. What? That's the way your spouses have been feeling. Run to me. Run to me because I am dying. Some of your spouses have felt like they were dying. And some of you felt the same way because your heart has been feeling the pull of the longing towards one another. What else? Because nobody wants to be lonely. Nobody wants to cry. Nobody. Y'all both have had a longing for one another, and it hurts. And this is another reason why y'all supposed to get married immediately. Brittany Gaskins did a video. What's her name? Keys to the Kingdom. Like a year and a half ago, talking about the white mouse. And in that, she talked about the fact that the reason that he's putting y'all together and y'all can't stay in courtship for a long period of time is because y'all just, the intimacy level of the desire for y'all to be together intimately, y'all on fire. Heart of Roof did a video talking about God speeding up the process because you're both burning for one another. This just make it pain. And it's hurting each other. The desire for one another is literally hurting each of you. Because time is precious and it's slipping away. Some of your spouses have wasted time, tarried in places they supposed to have been had gotten past. They kept failing certain tests. Remember, I did a word way back last year early sometime where I talked about the fact that the lust of the eye, lust of the flesh, pride of life, that literally that's the thing that's been holding y'all up. That they kept failing those tests, and because the time is so precious and it's been slipping away every time they failed certain tests, they came to the realization, I can't waste time any longer. And for some of you, and the Lord brought me this revelation, I'm going to stick it in right here since I haven't said it anywhere else. For some of you, everybody talks about the story of Rebecca. Oh, Rebecca, oh, Rebecca, oh, Rebecca, 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 Rebecca. Rebecca got married immediately. Rebecca was taken directly to Isaac and they got immediately married. But what was Isaac's problem at the time that he married Rebecca? Does anybody remember? Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding. His mother had just died. For some of you, there have been people in your spouse's life that were abruptly taken out of this earth. Some people have bad parents. Some people have had friends. Some people have had associates. Some people that have had people that were mentors. Some people have had people that were important to them just suddenly up and they were no longer alive anymore. People that they went to that were voices of reason and wisdom in their life, and they no longer had that person anymore. And I know who it was for my spouse. But, well, I assume that it was that individual. But I know that this person had a very deep impact on this man's life. So, with all that being said, they were a little bit lost. You coming in is going to help them go through grief recovery. And it's funny, I keep seeing this image. I'm seeing an image of my spouse, but I'm seeing the words grief recovery over it. And I'm like, this hasn't happened just once. And I'm talking about within the last week. I'm like, what? For some of you, your spouse had a loss. It may be something that had recently happened, or something that has been a thing that happened that opened a can of worms, that things needed to be dealt with, that this was the holdup that you've been waiting on, that your spouse needed to deal with some deep-seated, deep-rooted issues between family that needed to be dealt with. And God's just bringing this to me, that this was what was holding up the time. Because in some cases, your spouse was the matriarch. Is that matriarch or the patriarch? The patriarch of his family, meaning he was the oldest sibling. And because of that, when certain things popped off in the family, he had to go home and deal with that. And this brings me back to something else. I was looking at a video last night. A lot of y'all was brought home before this marriage had to transpire. Some of your spouses were brought home in order to deal with certain issues in the family. And it's, oh, come on, God. The other day, I was watching, what's the name? NCIS. And in NCIS, one of the main characters, he had to leave the show, not the show, but the team temporarily, because he had to go back home to deal with his father's affairs, because his father hadn't told him he was transferring the assets, catch that, inheritance, over to him when he died. And he had to go back and deal with the family and the family issues, which he was not trying to deal with. He kept trying to come back to work, and his boss said, go back home and deal with that. Some of your spouses had to deal with familial issues that they didn't want to deal with, because they had to go home and deal with their siblings. They had to go home and deal with their family. I don't know whether it was the death of a mother. I don't know whether it was the death of an uncle, family friend, whatever it was. But it was an important member of their family that they had to deal with. And they're dealing with the grief of the loss of the individual in the first place. But they also dealing with the grief of having to deal with the family. And the Lord showed me, come on, God, the movie Kingdom Come. He's been showing me the cover for that film on my YouTube feed for a few weeks. And I've been like, why am I seeing this? I didn't want to watch that movie. And I'm sitting there, I thought about it last night. And when I thought about it last night, I was thinking to myself that some people, the worst thing to do is to come back home during the midst of a funeral. Because when somebody dies and y'all had issues that y'all hadn't dealt with, all them issues come up. Y'all can't hide them. Your emotions are too high. Some of this has been what's happened to your spouse. They've been dealing with the grief of familial issues that unrequited, undealt with issues from childhood traumas and problems with siblings, with parents, all that stuff had to come up. Uncles, aunties, all that kind of stuff. Y'all know that when it comes down to coming around y'all family, it's like a war zone, pretty much. And you walking with God and they not? Oh, Lord. Father God. Pretty Daisy did a video where she was talking about the narcissist in the family, and talked about all those things that you end up having to face. And I always talk about her because she reminds me of what I believe that my spouse had to deal with. When certain things happen, people pass away, these things have to be addressed. And because of the death, emotions running high anyway, grief recovery. Isaac was dealing with a death of his mother. I hope that ain't the case with your spouse, but in some cases that may have been the issue. The death brings up the emotions that were not being able to be dealt with. And he had to deal with those things. Some of y'all been wondering, why is it taking them so long? They were dealing with grief. Grief is a very strange thing. Now, some cases there is demonic grief, yes. But in some cases, you just have to deal with the grief that's there. Meaning, I remember one time, and I don't talk about what happened in that experience very often, but when I was in New York, I was in the place that I was staying, and I ran into a young woman. And she got a phone call and she was crying when she was walking down the hall towards me. I said, "What's going on?" And she said that her brother had passed away and she was dealing with grief. I think it was either just me alone or me and a friend of mine were standing in the hallway with her. And I prayed with her for the grief that she was dealing with to be broken. Tiffany Montgomery said that there's such a thing as demonic grief, that the enemy tries to sit a level of grief on you to oppress you that you should be able to deal with it. There's a certain amount of time, that you deal with grief. But there's a point in time where that grief can turn into something that oppresses your ability to self-sabotage your ability to move forward. And you got to break that spirit of demonic grief that tries to keep you in that grief process. I know I've dealt with it before I came to Christ. It's that kind of grief that makes you want to kill either you or somebody else. Break everything in your house. That kind of grief. And you can't be around nobody when you got that kind of grief. You can't. This is where the enemy will try to get you to take your own life. Remember demonic messages and bewitchment? That's that kind of grief. You got to break that kind of grief. And some of your spouses have been stuck in that. That's what's been holding them up, because that grief has been holding them. And then if they had family members that are blaming them and all kinds of stuff because somebody has passed away, it's like, you should have came back. You should have. Remember Jesus? I remember Martha. You should have came back and saved my brother.